Video game remakes always have a lot of expectations to live up to, and in speedrunning this is no exception. Can they carve their own niche and thrive as their own unique experience, or are they doomed to wallow in the shadow of their ancestors? The former was the case with the Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy, with all three games having developed their own distinct identities from the original PS1 versions. Even amongst these three, one in particular stands out. A game that went above and beyond anyone's expectations and not only stepped out of its PS1 counterpart's shadow, but also established itself as one of the best Crash speedruns out there. This is the story of the Sane Trilogy's Crash 3 any% speedrun, and how runners continuously pushed the category to its absolute limit. The date is June 30th, 2017. The Sane Trilogy has just been released for PlayStation 4, and the Crash speedrunning community is grinding away at the three new games to see what potential could be unearthed from each of them. The remakes were a clean slate with little to none of the speed tech from the original PS1 counterparts surviving the transition to PS4. The glitch high jump, a technique that lets you achieve extra height in a slide jump by spinning during the jump, was left in, but techniques such as neutral slide spin, neutral slide jump, and zigzagging were all nowhere to be found. Each game in the trilogy had its own distinct set of runners going at it. Crash 1 was attracting several new faces looking to get into Crash speedrunning for the first time. Crash 2 had a lot of veterans of the community grinding it, particularly the 102% category, as the addition of time trial relics offered a completely unique experience compared to the original PS1 release. Crash 3, on the other hand, had a bit of a slow start by comparison. There were a couple of runs done on the day after release that established a bit of a starting point, with the first run being a 1:17:24 by the Pokey Tesla, shortly followed by a 1:11:24 by CD Ramatron. But July 3rd, I had been able to lower the time further to a 1:03:17, but my priorities were still aimed mostly at Crash 2, and there wasn't anyone else that was really dedicated to Crash 3 in the same way as the other two games. Compared to its predecessors, which are almost entirely composed of 3D platforming with a handful of vehicle levels, Crash 3 splits the difference 50-50, with half the game being the standard platforming and the other half being vehicles. This made half the game uninteresting to many, and the lack of advanced movement tech didn't really allow it to have an identity that was distinct from Crash 2. There was a very early discovery in the third boss fight, Entropy, where you could skip the first phase of the battle. The blue tiles in the first phase extend just far out enough that by utilizing a glitch high jump and a double jump, you could reach the other side where Entropy was. This was also possible in the original PS1 version, but Entropy was invincible and would automatically kill you if you did cross over too early. The Sane Trilogy, however, did not give Entropy full invincibility frames and allows you to hit him after a short period of time. I made use of this first phase skip in the record that I set, but it alone wasn't enough to make Crash 3 feel like anything more than Crash 2 with less platforming. Little did anyone know, however, that a huge discovery was just around the corner. While the full game speedrunners were fast at work with the Sane Trilogy, the time trial scene was equally active, and on July 5th, 2017, a runner by the name of Abdul the Arabic Guy uploaded a video of his time trial run of level 15, Doubleheader. Within this video, Abdul did something incredibly interesting. By slide spinning into a death tornado spin, then jumping and landing on the side ledges of the level, he was able to get a huge boost in speed that lasted for the entire duration of the death tornado spin. After some quick labbing, it was realized that the only requirement for this huge speed boost was that Crash or Coco had to touch the ground before the death tornado spin ended, and with proper rhythm and timing, this technique could be pulled off anywhere. A lot of potential names were thrown around for this new technique, including Hyperspin and Abduling, but the name that eventually stuck was Mach Tornado. And a quick side note, as the person who named the trick, I can confirm that it was 100% a reference to this. Mach Tornado was a game changer. The Death Tornado Spin is a power exclusive to Crash 3 and is rewarded to the player for defeating Entropy at the end of the third warp room. This meant that the second half of the Crash 3 speedrun now had an advanced movement tech completely unique to itself. Crash 3 finally had something that set itself apart from its two predecessors, and now, all eyes were on it. On the same day that Mach Tornado was found, the first established champion of Crash 3 NST any% made his debut, an English runner known as Diamond Dare. Diamond was already a well-established veteran of Crash speedruns, holding respectable times in all three of the original PS1 trilogy games, as well as the Wrath of Cortex and other PS1 classics like Spyro the Dragon. And with the field wide open with Crash 3 any%, he decided to make his mark. Despite being done on the same day as Mach Tornado's discovery, Diamond's first submitted run doesn't actually make heavy use of it, only really taking advantage of it in the warp rooms and on the hills in level 25, Bug Light. This is understandable though, as the trick was still extremely new, and runners were still getting used to it. There are even several spots in Diamond's run where he tried to do it and didn't quite get the proper rhythm of inputs down. Even without it though, Diamond's movement was still much cleaner than those before him, and he was able to cleanly shave almost 7 minutes off of the record, with a final time of 56:30.
What?
Oh my god! It's a sub one time!
I beat it by exactly a minute. 1:09:59. Not bad.
It's a sub 110! Oh my god!
Ah! Try hard! World record!
No!
Try hard! Ah!
It's a world record.
It's not a PB. It's a world record.
It's a world record.
Ah!
That run was only the beginning, however, because the very next day, Diamond set another record. This run featured new innovations in the entropy boss fight. On top of skipping the first phase of the fight, which Diamond actually didn't do in his first run, he was also able to skip the second phase by using a glitch high jump to go back to the starting platform before the blue tiles faded away. It was also discovered that you could skip the final phase of the fight by using a mask to damage abuse off of the energy sphere entropy throws at you, and then clearing the remaining distance with a double jump. Diamond tries to do this third phase skip in the run, but flubs the movement and saves himself by simply jumping back to the original platform.
I saved it! I saved it! No! Ah! I saved it with with the damage abuse.
Diamond also showed off much more control of Mach Tornado in this run, although his utilization of it was still mostly restricted to the Warp Room and Bug Light. Even with several accidental deaths scattered throughout the run, particularly in Warp 4, Diamond was still able to shave over 2 minutes off of his previous run, achieving a final time of 54:17. Diamond would follow this run up with another one the very next day, achieving a 53:09, and then yet another one on the day after that with a 51:40. The latter run also featured all 3 of the phase skips in the entropy boss fight. Diamond's streak of daily world records ended here, however, with his 51:40 standing for 6 days until July 14th, when he achieved a 2-second PB of 51:38.
Defeated again. This is not fair.
Fuck's sake, man. I hate shit like this.
Nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
Fuck your bags of ice. Fuck them. Shut up your arse. I don't care.
Before we continue, I want to briefly mention another development that had been going on at the same time. A well-known Crash glitch hunter by the name of Beta M had spent the days since the Sane Trilogy's release poking around in the Time Twister, trying to find a way to access later warp rooms early. On the same day that Mach Tornado had been discovered, Beta found a way. It's hard to explain, but I'll try my best. Basically, the prompt that allows you to have Coco either join or leave you is triggered by pressing R1, the same button that you use to crouch or slide. With perfect timing, you can slide away from Coco's laptop at the same time that you trigger the prompt. This puts you in a state where the prompt for Coco is active in the background, and you can constantly switch between having or not having her with you by pressing either up or down and X. And if you're on the platform that takes you to and from Warp Room 6 and you make this switch while crossing the invisible wall that stops you from going out of bounds, Coco becomes intangible. She loses the ability to jump when doing this, but with clever switching between her and Crash, you can go out of bounds and access any warp room early. Now, this sounds game-changing. All you have to do is get 5 relics to unlock the platform to Warp Room 6, do the clip to get into Warp Room 5, beat the 5 levels there, and then fight and beat Cortex, right? Why isn't this being used in runs? Well, unfortunately, Crash 3 doesn't work like that. Boss fights don't trigger based on what specific levels you've beaten, but rather how many crystals you have. Crystals are the game's main collectible, with one being found in each of the 25 main levels. Boss fights unlock for every 5 crystals you get. So let's say you get the crystals for the first 5 levels in Warp Room 1, beating the first boss, Tiny, along the way. Getting a crystal in a level is the only way to unlock their time trials, which reward you with relics, so clearing these levels is necessary. After that, you get the 5 relics to unlock Warp Room 6, and then use the gate clip to go to Warp Room 5. You get the 5 crystals in that warp room, putting your total count at 10. Despite the fact that you beat the 5 levels in the 5th warp room, you actually unlock the boss fight for Dingodile in the 2nd warp room, since that's what the 10th crystal triggers. In order to unlock the fight with Cortex, you must have all 25 crystals, so using Gate Clip to skip huge chunks of the game is sadly not possible. The Gate Clip was useful in the game's full completion category, but that's a story for a different video. As it stood, Gate Clip had no practical use in any percent. 5138 would be Diamond's last PB in Crash 3 any percent, and as of the recording of this video, it's also the last speedrun he's ever done. In 2 short weeks, he had taken almost 12 minutes off of the world record, but his time at the game was over as quickly as it had begun. Someone new would have to come and take the throne, and that someone would be yet another veteran to the Crash series, a speedrunner named Roach788. For the PS1 versions of Crash 2 and 3, most runners focused on the 100% and 105% categories respectively, but Roach particularly specialized in the any% categories instead, holding very respectable times in both Crash 2 any% no game over abuse and Crash 3 any% no item glitch, which still hold up well to this day. He even had the opportunity to showcase the former category at AGDQ 2015. Simply put, Roach had a great resume going for him, and the Sane Trilogy was an opportunity for him to test his mind on a new game. On July 27, 2017, Roach set his first record in Crash 3 any% with a time of 51:12. Compared to Diamond, Roach's run made slightly more use of Mach Tornado. He cleared the opening passageway of Sphinxinator with it, and also utilized Triple Mask to safely use it in sections of Future Frenzy and Gone Tomorrow. He did suffer from 2 unfortunate deaths in Sphinxinator, as well as not having a mask to do the third phase skip in Entropy, but these improvements as well as overall clean and consistent movement allowed him to pull ahead of Diamond's time.
GG. World record.
Defeated again.
Roach's next record on August 2nd featured much more confidence in his Mach Tornadoes. He was now doing them much more liberally to cross long stretches of open paths in each of the platforming levels, and was even able to catch this doorway in Bug Light before it closed. Even after suffering a nasty death at the start of Entropy, he was able to close out the run with a final time of 50:38, a 34-second improvement from his run 6 days prior. Roach would then immediately follow this up with a 50:14 the next day. He was now very rapidly approaching the first ever sub-50 time in the category. It wouldn't take him too long because on August 10th, Roach achieved a time of 49:55. This run had quite a few minor errors scattered throughout. Stray hits taken across Warp Rooms 3 and 4 meant Roach didn't have the 2 masks he normally takes into Future Frenzy in order to have invincibility for Mach Tornado. He also lost a bit of time in Orange Asphalt due to crashing into this cop car. Still, he was able to close the run out and attain that sub-50 time. Roach, however, was far from satisfied. He now had his sights set on one more minute barrier, the sub-49. By August 19th, Roach was very much on his quest for a 48. He was maintaining a very consistent pace, and despite some time loss in the late game, he was able to enter Cortex with a 35-second lead. The fight went off without a hitch, and Roach achieved a final time of 49:18, a large improvement over his 49:55, but still just a bit short of the sub-49 goal. Regardless, Roach was getting very close. On August 25th, Roach once again had another run on his hands. Aside from a stray hit in Dynamite due to some bad RNG with a Nitro Bounce, his early game was looking strong. He nailed all of the phase skips in Entropy, and maintained his mask count throughout all of Warp Room 4 to utilize invincibility in all 3 of the Warp Room's platforming levels. An unfortunate early hit in Future Frenzy meant he had to play the back end of the level safer, but otherwise this run was going extremely well. Warp Room 5 similarly went cleanly, and now, the only thing between Roach and the sub-49 was Cortex.
Except for that one mine right next to him, he was actually playing pretty nice.
Defeated again.
48:40. In 29 days, Roach had taken the groundwork laid by Diamond and pushed the envelope even further. By this point, it was clear that Roach was the leader of the pack when it came to Crash 3 any%. His next closest competitors were all still wallowing in the 51-minute range, and no one else was coming close to challenging his throne. That was all about to change, however, with the appearance of a brand new runner. A rising star who, unlike Roach and Diamond, had no prior experience with Crash speedrunning. He was very quickly climbing the ranks, but at the time, nobody knew just how much of a legacy he was going to leave behind. If you follow games done quick, you've almost certainly heard of this man. His name is JHobz. JHobz was primarily a speedrunner of Kingdom Hearts 1 and Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. However, he was also very fond of doing blind races with his friends, and one game they chose to do a race of was the Sane Trilogy.
Let's see, the Sane Trilogy was coming out, and Spike Vegeta, myself, Used Pizza, and Carulius all just kind of decided to do a blind race of the entire trilogy, and it was so fun. It was just like really, really cool, and I think that like I just kind of kept going a little after that. It kind of reminded me how much I enjoyed Crash 3 when I was a kid. As I got like better and better at the game, and I was having more fun, I was starting to see like, okay, I think I could actually get like pretty decent. A lot of that was before I ever learned any strats.
JHobz' first submitted time, while not his first run of the category, was on August 12, 2017, and clocked in at a final time of 51:16. This was enough to put him in second place, an extremely impressive early showing by a runner completely new to the Crash speedrunning scene. JHobz would follow up on this time 3 weeks later on September 1st with a 49:44, becoming the second runner to break through the sub 51 barrier and completely skipping the 50-minute threshold in the process. Not even 2 weeks later, on September 13th, JHobz broke the sub 49 barrier as well with a 48:43.
Oh, that was slow at the end, but I got the lucky power-up spawn. 58:51. That's almost certainly not world record, but hell, that's a good PB.
In just over a month, JHobz went from having a low 51-minute time to being only 3 seconds off of the world record. He was closing in on it, and he was doing it fast. JHobz' meteoric rise spurred Roach back into action. By September 19th, just 25 days after his 48:40, he was once again on the grind, aiming to hold on to his throne while also pushing the game further. He managed a 1-second PB, achieving a time of 48:39, but he was going to have to push a lot harder to hold on to his title. September 22nd, 2017 was a fateful day for Crash 3 Any%. Roach and JHobz, the two titans of the game, were both streaming world record attempts, but which one of them was going to come out on top?
How the hell did I nudge that cop?
Oh my god, I didn't hit X right away there.
That should be world record.
Not fair. Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
It's not over, Bandicoot. There are still the ends. We still have a chance to triumph.
It was a fierce fight for the top spot, but in the end, a new king was crowned. Achieving a world record is always a momentous occasion in and of itself, but for JHobz, this was only the beginning of the legacy he would leave behind. On September 25th, 2017, JHobz discovered something that would change not just Crash 3 any %, but the Sane Trilogy as a whole, forever.
I was just practicing the movement in a specific spot for a level just to try to get better at it. And this was after the game had already been accepted into, it was either after it had already been accepted into HDQ 2018, or it was like after I had submitted it, but it hadn't necessarily been accepted yet. I can't remember which. And so I was just like practicing, trying to get better at it in case it got in. And I just kept noticing while I was practicing this one thing, this like that I was weirdly getting this like speed boost on this log. And I was like, why is that happening? And eventually I just worked it out and I started to do the chain thing. And this was on PS4. It was 30 FPS. It's actually like easier to do on PC at 60 FPS.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like twice as hard to do basically on PS4. And as I found it, I was like, this is gonna be really hard to do. But very quickly, I was already starting to get some of these chains where I was like, this is gonna change everything about this run for at least any level where you can do it.
Okay, that was not a boost. That is, what's happening, dude? What the fuck is happening? Holy shit! What? What the fuck? Oh my god!
What just happened? As it turns out, if Crash or Coco does a slide spin and touches the ground before the spin animation ends, they get a huge speed boost for the duration of the spin. This can even be extended by perfectly chaining slide spins into each other. The premise is extremely similar to the Mach Tornado, with two key distinctions. The first is that it can be done indefinitely, unlike the Mach Tornado, which always ends when the Death Tornado spin finishes. The second is that this could not be done everywhere. The spin animation is simply too short to be able to land on a flat surface before it ends. So in order to do this trick, you need to jump mid-slide spin and land on a hill, a ledge, or bonk into some sort of ceiling that will force Crash or Coco back onto the ground.
Oh. Oh. This is a big one, though. This is a big one, I'm not gonna lie.
This new tech needed a name, and the one that eventually stuck was Hob sliding.
I actually found it on stream, which was how it kind of, got named after me. I was trying to come up with a name of it. My chat came up with Hob sliding. And so I try to take no credit over naming it. Like I'm not that conceited. It's just
I know every time I find a trick, I call it the PMC something something.
Right. And I don't know if maybe that's part of why it was like that. Is that in Kingdom Hearts we had a tradition of like a lot of skips that were named after people. Like there was like Mist Jump and there was a Hobbs Jump in Kingdom Hearts that only I ever used. There was a lot of stuff that was named after people. And I don't know if that's why people came up with it or not, but it just kind of stuck.
Hob sliding completely changed how runners approached Crash 3. Whereas in the past the goal of early game movement was to simply slide spin as cleanly and as often as possible, it now became a point to Hob slide constantly, at least until it got replaced by Mach Tornado. Getting the Death Tornado spin from Entropy completely eliminates the ability to Hob slide, so the Crash 3 any % run was now cleanly defined by the first 60% of the run being dominated by Hob slides and the last 40% by Mach Tornadoes. Despite how revolutionary Hob sliding was and the immediate impact it had on how runners approached the game, the 4832 that JHobz set remained the world record for a few months. Roach decided to tap out after his 4836, briefly picking up the then newly released Super Mario Odyssey before going on a hiatus from speedrunning. JHobz was accepted as the opener for HDQ 2018, but he too decided to take a small break from Crash 3 Any%, opting to do some full trilogy completion runs and, much like Roach, also dabble a bit in Odyssey. During this lull in activity, the only other person seriously grinding Crash 3 Any% at the higher levels was myself. Even then though, I only managed to achieve a time of 49:37 before choosing to return my focus to Crash 2. With HDQ only a month out, JHobz made his return to Crash 3 Any% in December, and he hit the ground running. Now with Hobbs slotting in his arsenal, JHobz achieved a new record of 47:53 on December 7th, 2017, a nearly 40-second improvement over his last run. He then followed this up on Christmas Day with a 47:48, and despite briefly losing the record on January 5th, just 2 days before HDQ 2018, JHobz would return from the event a week later and almost immediately strike back with a 47:25 on January 17th. He was on a roll, and it wouldn't take long for him to shatter yet another minute barrier. On January 20th, 2018, JHobz achieved a new world record of 46:40, shaving a whopping 45 seconds off of his previous record, and playing within a minute of his summer best. This was, for its time, the God Run, and to this day it is still the fastest run done with this route on console. JHobz's 46:40 stood as the world record for more than 5 months, with nobody coming even close to contesting it. But big things were on the horizon. The Sane Trilogy, after a year of being a PS4 exclusive, was finally receiving a release on Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. This heralded an era of change that nobody was expecting. The story of Crash 3 Any% was just getting started. Out of all the new versions of the Sane Trilogy, the PC version immediately drew the most attention from runners. Unlike the 3 console versions having their frame rate locked to 30 FPS, the PC version ran at 60. This had a subtle but dramatic effect on the run overall. Crash's running and falling speeds are tied to the game's overall frame rate, and at 60 FPS, he moves slightly faster in both areas. The faster running speed is an obvious enough boon, but the increased falling speed was huge because it meant Hobbs slides, which were quite notorious for being very difficult on PS4, were now much easier, much more consistent, and possible in many more places. Despite this, however, the biggest game changer of all came not from these 60 FPS changes, but rather the introduction of a little level called Future Tense. Future Tense is an additional bonus level made specifically for the Sane Trilogy version of Crash 3, and was released at the same time as the multi-platform release. It's available immediately from the start and contains an additional 2 gems and a relic. So, why does this matter for Any%? Well, the platform that takes you to Future Tense is identical to the one that takes you to Warp Room 6. Remember that gate clip I mentioned earlier? With the introduction of Future Tense, the gate clip could now be performed without needing to first collect 5 crystals. This probably still doesn't sound that great, since you still can't fight Cortex without collecting all 25 crystals. But remember, the gate clip can be used to break into any warp room, not just for the purpose of getting to Cortex early, but also to access a warp room without fighting the boss required to open it. Dingodile and Entropy are both very quick fights that reward you with the double jump and death tornado spin respectively, 2 power-ups that were extremely critical to the run, so skipping them didn't seem worth it. The same could not be said, however, for Tiny and Engine. Both of these fights are incredibly long, and the power-ups they reward you with, the Super Body Slam and Fruit Bazooka, are borderline useless in an Any% speedrun, so skipping them saves a lot of time. It very quickly became apparent just how much of an impact on the run Gate Clip was going to have. On June 29th, 2018, the same day as the multi-platform release, Polish speedrunner mcCrody used Gate Clips to skip both Tiny and Engine and achieved a time of 46:31, 9 seconds faster than JHobz's long-standing record. This run was also done on PS4 as opposed to PC, and over time faster setups and methods to perform the gate clip were labbed out. The only caveat was that for whatever reason on the PC version of the game, these faster methods caused your screen to go completely black after the transition. The Warp Room 2 gate clip was very short, so this didn't affect it much, but a lot of the movement in the second gate clip to get into Warp Room 5 had to be done blind on PC. But these are speedrunners we're talking about. They weren't about to let a small roadblock stop them in the name of going fast. And if it meant learning how to do gate clip blind, so be it. The addition of gate clip into Any% spurred Roach back into action. Still on PS4, he used both gate clips to achieve a time of 46:22 on June 30th, 2018, just one day after Crody set the first record with gate clip. He would then follow it up the very next day with a 45:08, eclipsing JHobz's previous record by over a minute and a half. After this, Roach made the transition to PC. It had been known since that version's release that 60 FPS saved time due to how much easier Hobbs slides were, but the very subtle movement speed buff wasn't immediately picked up on by many runners. However, it had quickly become very apparent in Crash 2 just how much faster the PC version was, and it was about to become just as apparent in Crash 3. On July 5th, 2018, Roach began his first batch of PC runs. Right off the bat, you can immediately see how much easier Hobbs sliding had become, with him effortlessly performing one at the very beginning of the run, off of a lever right outside of the first warp room. He immediately follows this up with a string of Hobbs slides in Toad Village, at a rate of consistency never seen on PS4. The consistency and speed persisted throughout the entire remainder of the run, and in the end, Roach achieved a time of 43:42, completely shattering his run 4 days prior on the PS4, and completely skipping the 44-minute milestone. Just 2 days later, on July 7th, Roach would break yet another minute barrier, achieving a run of 42:38. 4 minutes had been shaved off of the run in just 1 week, and Roach wasn't ready to stop yet. He had his eyes set on one final goal, the sub 42. However, he had a competitor in the race for it. JHobz had finally made his return too, and on July 10th, he achieved a new record of 42:10. They say history repeats itself, and in the case of Crash 3 any%, it couldn't be any truer. Once again, the race for the next big record was between Roach and JHobz. This time, it was Roach who came out on top. On July 14th, 2018, he achieved a new world record of 41:50, breaking the final minute barrier he sought after. It wouldn't take long for JHobz to respond with a 41 of his own, getting a new record of 41:25 on July 25th, but Roach had decided that he had done all that he had set out to do. With the knowledge that he was the first person to break the sub 42 barrier, Roach took his final leave from the game. While the race between Roach and JHobz raged on, another runner had been making strides in the background, a Norwegian runner by the name of Murcaz. Murcaz had been running the Sane Trilogy for a few months, having been inspired by JHobz's HDQ run at the beginning of the year. By the time of the PC version's release, he had managed to achieve a time of 48:37 on PS4, and with the switch to PC, he was looking to continue pushing himself forward. Surpassing JHobz and Roach was going to be a tall order, but Murcaz had already proven himself capable in the short time he had been running, and if there was one thing he had, it was determination.
Fuck yes! The run wasn't even good. .41:17 world record. Fuck yes!
Fuck yeah!
Oh my god!
That is what I come back to.
What the fuck?
Oh,
why the fuck is that fight so slow? I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it was so tense. I thought he was gonna like
RNG
die
was
or
horrible,
something.
but
I was
holy
so
fuck,
scared.
dude! Holy fuck, dude!
I knew you.
Oh my
Fuck
god!
yeah, word. World record.
Good shit, dude.
After a grueling 4-month grind, Murcaz managed to surpass both JHobz and Roach and achieve a new world record of 41:17. Far from content with this time, however, he continued to push for another month, and on December 11th, he broke the record yet again with a time of 40:54, becoming the first person to ever get a sub 41 time.
Fuck yes! Ah! Yes! Holy fuck!
In the 5 months since the PC version's release, times that had been unthinkable back on PS4 had been achieved. 6 minutes had come off of the world record, and JHobz' 46:40, a run considered legendary when it was set, looked like mere child's play compared to the times that were being set now. But the question was, could it go further? Could the game be beaten in less than 40 minutes? Was a 39-minute run possible? And who was it that the answer to that question lied with? Was it JHobz, the veteran who always seemed to come back and push the goalpost further? Was it Murcaz, the newcomer who proved that he had what it takes to tango with the best of them? Or would it be someone else? Someone who had already proven their might in another game in the Sane Trilogy, and was now looking to take Crash 3 by storm. The beginning of 2019 would feature one such person joining the fray, a speedrunner from New York known as CameronVengenz. Cam had been speedrunning the Sane Trilogy since the first month of the game's release on PS4. However, all of his focus had been on Crash 1, having been a dominant force in that game's all gems and 105% categories, and consistently being a top 2 runner in any percent. He even ran Crash 1 any percent at SGDQ the morning after the PC release. Cam had managed a time of 48:05 on the PS4 version of Crash 3 any percent before the update that added a gate clip to the run, and after that update he achieved a time of 44:15 on PS4 during a full Trilogy any percent run. However, Cam's PC at the time wasn't powerful enough to run the Sane Trilogy well, so he took an extended break from the game, running the Spyro Reignited Trilogy when it came out later that fall, but largely staying inactive. All of that changed in December of that year, however, when Cam got upgraded to a new PC that could run the Sane Trilogy just fine. He spent the remainder of December, and by extension 2018, grinding Crash 3's new full completion category, 108%, pulling far ahead of the competition at the time. With the turn of the year though, Cam now set his sights on any percent. On January 12, 2019, Cam did an any percent run of the entire Sane Trilogy, and during the Crash 3 portion of the run, he managed a time of 41:41, landing him in the top 3 of Crash 3 any percent in his first run on PC. And just 2 days later, on January 14th, he achieved a time of 40:35, setting a new world record. Cam didn't have his sights set only on Crash 3, however. On the same day that he got the Crash 3 any percent record, he also got the Crash 2 any percent record with a time of 42:42. A month later, on February 4th, he set a new record in Crash 3 any percent with a time of 40:24, and by the end of March he had also broken the records in the 100% and 102% categories of Crash 2. Cam had swept all 5 categories in Crash 2 and 3, and had previously swept all of the Crash 1 categories on PS4. It was clear that he was a dominant force not only in one category or one game, but in the entire Sane Trilogy. SGDQ 2019 was on the horizon, and Crash 3 any percent had been accepted for the second time, this time as a race between the category's 3 top runners, Cam, Murcaz, and JHobz. In the weeks leading up to the event, all 3 were grinding hard at the game, regularly chatting with each other, figuring out in what ways they could keep optimizing the game further, all in the hopes of one day achieving that elusive 39-minute time. In June of 2019, just a few weeks before the marathon, all 3 runners improved their times. Cam, on June 10th, set a new world record with a staggering 40:06, just 7 seconds off of the sub 40 milestone.
40:07.
Hell yeah, dude. GG.
Holy fuck. Hell yeah, dude.
Alright, now don't play again until GDQ.
On June 16th, both Murcaz and JHobz set new PBs as well, with a 40:32 and 40:33 respectively. The prospect of a 39 happening was becoming more real with time, and while it seemed like Cam was always one step ahead, in reality, any of the 3 could break the barrier. SGDQ 2019 came and went, and the Crash 3 any percent race was a great success, with Cam clutching out the win. This race had a much bigger impact on the category's history than it initially seemed, however, because it inspired a new runner to take up the mantle. If you've been watching Crash speedruns at any point in the past few years, you may be familiar with him. July 2019 marked the introduction of a new runner named Potty. Potty made a very strong introduction, with his first submitted run being a 44:10, and over the next 3 months, he kept whittling that time down. Did he have what it took to compete with the best? By November 8th, Potty had brought his PB all the way down to a 41.57, a really impressive feat for someone who had only been running for a few Wait, Xbox One? By this point in the game's life, almost all active runners were on PC, so for Potty to achieve a 41 on the slower version of the game with such a heavy disadvantage, it was very clear that he had more than what it took to be among the best. With a switch to PC, Potty could easily go for 39. Much like Cam before him, however, Potty's PC was not well equipped to handle the Sane Trilogy, but with not much further to go on console, he decided to persevere and make the switch anyway.
Let's go, dude. Actually 49.
December 2019 was another fateful month in Crash 3's history. JHobz had long since made his exit from the game, with his 40.33 that he set before SGDQ remaining his latest PB as of the recording of this video. However, Cam and Murcaz were still going strong, and they were joined by a new competitor in Potty. Any of the three could achieve the 39, and it was going to happen soon. It was only a matter of time.
Good shoe, please. Fast portal you want. Well, let's go, dude.
I got a new world record though, so that's pretty cool.
It's not gonna want. Maybe. Portal.
Oh my god, Cortex, you truly are the antagonist of this game. And of my life. Shoe. Horrible shoe. It's not on record. Sorry, guys. Wait, does that tie? Did I tie by a frame? Guys, did I just tie by a frame?
December 30th, 2019. In just 2 days, the year, and by extension, the decade, would come to a close. All three of the top runners had improved their PBs, and the world record was tied, with Cam and Potty both holding it with a time of 40.04. Could the 39 happen before then? Potty was determined to make it so.
not nice. He's an evil scientist. Shoe. Okay. Alright. Come on! Give me it. Come on! Yes! I'm done. I'm done with the game. I quit the game. I'm done. I'm done with the game. I'm done. I don't care if it gets... I'm done.
3958. The milestone that had been sought after all year, achieved just before the turn of the decade. Potty had done it. He broke through the barrier, and solidified his place in Crash 3 Any%'s history. Potty lost the record just 3 days later. I mean, let's be honest. Cam wasn't about to leave his goal hanging just because someone else had beaten him to the punch. He was still determined to get a 39 for himself, and Potty pulling ahead was the motivation he needed. On January 2nd, 2020, Cam set a new world record with a time of 39:53, just 5 seconds ahead of Potty's own time.
Can't believe it. I can't believe I'm about to do it. Oh my fucking god. Finally, holy shit!
Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
It had been a crazy 2.5 years for Crash 3 Any%. Goalposts were moved, barriers were broken, gates were clipped, and world records were shattered. The game had evolved so much since its release back in 2017, and the Holy Grail run had been achieved, standing to this day as... Hold on. Why is this 39-minute time 14th place on the leaderboard? As it turns out, there was still a lot more to find. We just had to think a little bit smaller. Sure, all of the biggest skips in the warp room were already a thing, but what about skips within individual levels? Not long after Cam's 39:53, Crody discovered a clip in level 16, Sphinxinator. Shortly after the level's first checkpoint, you can do a glitch high jump to land on the ceiling above this staircase. From there, you can use mock tornadoes to quickly traverse most of the remainder of the level out of bounds, dropping down at the crystal near the level's exit. Overall, this clip saved about 7 seconds over doing the level normally. On February 21st, 2020, Potty used the new clip to set a new world record with a time of 39:52, just 1 second ahead of Cam. He would improve this by another 3 seconds the next day, achieving a record of 39:49. Even before the 39-minute barrier had been broken, it was theorized that the 39.3x was possible. Potty now sought out to achieve the latter, and he was joined in this endeavor by a friend, a runner from Kuwait named Groovy, who had been making a name for himself in every category across the Sane Trilogy since late 2019. By the beginning of 2020, Groovy had achieved a time of 40:22 in Crash 3 Any%, and like Potty, he was looking to achieve that elusive mid-39 time. For the next couple of months, Potty devoted much of his time to the completion categories in Crash 2 and 3. Groovy, meanwhile, kept pushing his Any% PB lower, bringing his time down to a 40:08, then 40 minutes flat, and then 39:55, becoming the third runner to achieve a sub-40 time. On April 22nd, he shaved another 4 seconds off of his time with a 39:51. He was catching up. By May, both Potty and Groovy were going at it together. On May 19th, Potty achieved a time of 39:47, a 2-second improvement on the world record. The next day, Groovy achieved a time of 39:48, just 1 second off of the time that Potty set. He then answered with a world record of his own a day later, finishing with a time of 39:44.
Let's go.
Holy shit. Holy fuck. GG, dude. Holy shit.
Potty himself would strike back the next day with a 39:41, just 2 seconds from the 39.3x. The pair were closing in on it. On May 28th, Potty finally broke through, finishing a run with a time of 39:36.
Please. I got it. I fucking got it. Fuck you, game. Fuck you. Finally! I'm so fucking good. Oh my fuck, I'm so hyped, dude. Finally! Finally!
With the mid-39 achieved, both Potty and Groovy decided to take a break from the category, instead choosing to focus on achieving top times across the other Sane Trilogy runs. The pair continued to prove that they were forces to be reckoned with across the entire trilogy. A few months later, on September 12th, 2020, speedrunner JamieBoy1989 was doing a Crash 3 108% race with some other runners when something very peculiar happened to him in the level Deep Trouble.
Oh, I don't think I'm liking this.
No, don't you fucking bullshit me like that, game. Fuck off. I've clipped. I've clipped out of bounds. Fuck off.
Where?
Do I have to... How can I die? Can I die?
I fucking hit. I've lost 3 masks.
Okay, I can die.
Let's go, Dynamite.
Nice game, by the way. That's bullshit.
I might not make this. Here we go.
To Jamie, this clip out of bounds was just some freak accident that was nothing more than an annoyance. To the keen eye of top Crash 3 runners, however, this was an opportunity. Deep Trouble is a level with a secret pathway housing the game's red gem at the end, alongside an alternate exit out of the level. Normally in a 90% run, this pathway means nothing, since to unlock it you would have to reach the normal end of the level anyway and backtrack. But if this clip Jamie got proved to be consistently doable, could it be possible to grab the crystal, clip out of bounds, and then travel all the way to the alternate exit and finish the level faster than you would doing it normally? It didn't take long for Crody to find a consistent setup for the clip. As it turns out, all it took was wiggling Crash in a specific way across the ground for him to clip through the floor and out of bounds. This was estimated to save around 14 seconds, a huge amount of time save at this point in Crash 3 90%'s lifespan. 39.2x was now on the table. After months away from the category, Potty made his return to Crash 3 90%.
Okay, now we just hold it together for the last 25 minutes.
On September 14th, 2020, he used the Deep Trouble clip to achieve a new world record of 39.33. He would then improve this run 7 days later with a 39.30. Potty was only a second off of the 39.2x, but he decided to take another break here. The end of September was right around the release of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, the first completely new game that the Crash franchise had seen in over a decade. Naturally at the time, all eyes were on that game, rather than the Sane Trilogy. The release of Crash 4 came and went, and Potty spent the first few months of the game's life playing the all-clear gems category. With time, however, he eventually decided that the game wasn't really for him, and he made his return to the Sane Trilogy. He would make his full return to Crash 3 90% in February of 2021, and on February 8th, he improved the world record by 2 seconds with a time of 39.28. He would follow this up just 2 days later on February 10th with a time of 39.18. A 39.1x would have been totally unthinkable just 1 year prior. Even then, Potty was not satisfied. He wanted a time that nobody else would be willing to go for. He wanted a 38. When the out of bounds clip in Deep Trouble was found, there of course was a question that was immediately asked. Could this also be done in under pressure? And the answer at the time was yes, but it was barely worth it. It was possible to clip out of bounds at the very beginning of the level and pop back inbounds at the middle portion with the first submersible. Doing this properly on the first attempt did save a cycle on the 2 electric rotators at the end of the section, but it wasn't deemed worth doing. However, a different clip that took you from that middle section to the end was also found, which saved 8 or 9 seconds. Even with that time save factored in, Potty's sum of best was 38.54. In other words, to achieve a 38, he would have to play damn near perfectly. On February 24th, 2021, Potty set a new record with a time of 39.07. This was the first record to utilize the under pressure clip, and it was only 8 seconds off of the 38-minute barrier. 2 days later, on February 26th, Potty started another attempt, and he played out of his mind.
Oh man, almost. Fuck off. No. Here. It's going really slow, right? Look at this. Look at Crash. Look at Crash right now. See him? He's just standing still. Look at the 9-5. Arms move! Look at that! That's the animation! That is the fucking animation starting. Look at that. Look at that. Get out of here. See? I mean, we still have to frame count it, obviously, but... his arms move, is what I'm saying. It is the animation, yeah. 38! we have to make sure, but I'm pretty confident.
After being thoroughly checked by the moderators, it was confirmed that this new record from Potty was, in fact, a 38:59. With only 5 seconds lost over his summer best, Potty had achieved the perfect speedrun. Well, it would have been perfect if Grody hadn't found a much faster clip in Under Pressure just a few days prior, which took the player out of bounds from start to finish. This clip saved a staggering 25 to 30 seconds over doing the level normally, much more than the 8 to 9 seconds that the older clip saved. Potty's 38:59 should not be discredited, however. When factoring in every strat that he did go for, the run truly was about as perfect as any human could be, but that extra time save from the harder Under Pressure clip meant that any percent's story was not over. The new end goal was a mid-38. The following year saw a lot of runners, including a returning Murcaz, making large strides in the category. Still, no one came close to beating Potty's time. Even without the faster Under Pressure clip, that run was still a legendary one that would not be toppled easily. On February 3rd, 2022, Potty finally returned to finish what he started. Utilizing the faster Under Pressure clip, he achieved a new record of 38:49, saving a whopping 10 seconds over his previous run. Over the next 3 months, Potty continued to persevere, bringing the time down even further to 38:46 on April 25th, and at last, on April 28th, Potty finished the job with a time of 38:37.
Oh my god! Holy shit! What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What is this? What the fuck is this? It's dead. I'm done. Thanks.
Finally content with all that he had done, Potty put any percent down for good. He improved the 108% record twice more in May of 2022, and then turned all of his attention to the original Crash 2 and 3 on PS1, both of which he's gone on to be a top-level runner in. I don't think it can be overstated just how dominant Potty was across multiple categories of the Sane Trilogy. His reign in Crash 3 Any% had been practically unchallenged for almost 2 years straight at this point, and he was similarly dominant in every other category he touched. He had the ability to achieve greatness in any speedrun he set his mind to, and he would continuously prove this many times to come. No matter how much it evolved, it seemed like there was always more to find with Crash 3 Any%, but after everything Potty had done, could there really be more? Let's step back for a bit and dive a little bit into another sphere of competitive gaming, far removed from Crash Bandicoot speedrunning, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. This might seem like a very strange tangent, but bear with me. Within the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene, there exists a book called Road of the King, written by Patrick Hoban, one of the greatest players of all time. The book documents Hoban's competitive philosophy when approaching the game, and in one section called Challenging Conventional Wisdom, he states, "What is popular or commonly accepted as true may be entirely untrue. We should not accept what is popular as a dogmatic and unquestionable truth. We ought to actively question not only what we want to know, but also what we think we know." This is a philosophy that I think applies not just to Yu-Gi-Oh! Or trading card games, but to many facets of life. including speedrunning. Sometimes, to push further, you need someone who's willing to go against the grain and challenge the status quo. This is CasuallyClutching. He's known mostly for his dominance of the Crash 1 categories in the Sane Trilogy. At the time of recording this video, he's the current world record holder for the All Gems and 105% categories, and a former record holder for any percent. He's also a bit infamous for finding strats that save a lot of time, but are very difficult. Clutching eventually decided to set his sights on Crash 3, and it would be he that challenged conventional wisdom. Let's rewind all the way back to 2018, when gate clip was first implemented into the run. I mentioned how Dingodile and Entropy were both deemed not worth skipping, but the notion of skipping them alongside Tiny and Engine was discussed at the time. Ultimately though, it was decided that both power-ups they provided were too important. The Death Tornado Spin was what allowed runners to do the Mach Tornado, and the 5 platforming levels in the last 2 warp rooms had layouts that did not favor the use of HobZ sliding, so runners concluded that it was better to simply fight Entropy and get the Death Tornado Spin for the sake of saving more time in the later levels of the run. As for Dingodile, the double jump isn't a power-up that most would consider vital to the whole run, but it is needed to do all of the phase skips in the Entropy fight. Dingodile's boss fight is incredibly short anyway, since the glitch high jump lets you clear all 3 phases in a matter of seconds, so the time you would save skipping him with gate clip would be really minuscule if you saved any at all. Clutching, however, had a thought. Who's to say that Mach Tornado really was faster than HobZ sliding in the last 2 warp rooms? What if you didn't need the Death Tornado Spin after all? What if it was faster to skip Entropy? The movement in Crash 3 had evolved a lot over the years, and runners had a much greater understanding of how things worked compared to 2018. HobZ sliding was found to be possible in far more places than originally believed, and an additional movement tech known as double sliding had since been found. If Crash buffers a slide immediately upon landing from a jump, it is actually possible to get 2 slides in a row without stopping or needing to jump or spin. With these evolutions in the movement in his arsenal, Clutching got to work timing warp rooms 4 and 5 with Mach Tornado versus HobZ sliding. He shared his findings on November 6, 2022, and the results were astounding. Not only was HobZ sliding faster than Mach Tornado in warps 4 and 5, it was much faster. When factoring in all of the differences between the 2 routes, Clutching concluded that skipping Entropy, done optimally, saved 45 seconds. 5.5 years into the game's life, something saving even 10 seconds would be revolutionary. For a single skip to save 45 seconds was gigantic. With that, Mach Tornado, a staple of the run since the first week of the Sane Trilogy's release, was now gone from any percent. The idea of a mid or even low 38 being the end goal for the category was blown right out of the water. A 37 was very possible. In spite of this new massive time save, Potty showed little interest in returning to the category. For the first time in almost 3 years, the throne was vacant, and it wasn't certain who would take it. Clutching himself used the Entropy skip to achieve a time of 38:57 on November 18th, firmly cementing himself in the top 3 of the category at the time. He wouldn't end up improving his time beyond this though, and shortly after returned to running Crash 1. In early 2023, a Finnish runner named Alapo, who had made a lot of strides not just in the Sane Trilogy, but many other speed games, stepped up to the plate. Alapo had already achieved an extremely impressive 39:03 earlier in 2022, and he had decided it was now time to take it a step further and see how far he could go with the Entropy skip. By March 21st, 2023, Alapo had brought his PB down to 38:44, now only 7 seconds off of Potty's record. But just like that, Alapo stopped too, choosing instead to devote his time to other speed games. 2 runners had tried and failed to claim the throne. Even with this new 45-second time save, was Potty really that untouchable? Well, Clutching and Alapo weren't the only active runners gunning for the top. There was one more. A runner from Germany named T. Ravage. Ravage was very new to the world of speedrunning, having only just started in July of 2022. His first category was actually Crash 2 any percent, but around September of that year, he switched his focus to Crash 3, and very quickly rose through the ranks. His first submitted run was a 44:55, and over the next few months he gradually brought that time lower and lower, until March 30th, 2023, just 9 days after Alapo, when he too was sitting on a sub 39, with a PB of 38:49. Ravage continued to push forward, and on April 22nd, he achieved a time of 38:38. He was now 1 second off of Potty's record. 1,091 days. That's 2 years, 11 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days that Potty held the record consecutively. In that time, very few, if any, came even close to challenging him. But on May 28th, 2023, with a time of 38:35, Ravage, a young man from Germany who not even a year ago was just finding his footing in speedrunning, broke Potty's nearly 3-year reign.
Let's fucking go! Oh my fucking god, man! Oh, fuck, man! Let's go! Oh, shit! Fuck, man! Let's fucking go! Holy shit! Oh! It's fucking done, man! Shit! Fuck.
But Ravage wasn't done. For the next few months, he continued to trudge forward. Everything that the community had worked on, every strat, every discovery, every optimization, every piece that every runner had ever left behind, was leading up to the final goal, the 37.
No! No way! No fucking way! No fucking way! Oh my god! Oh, what a hell of a run! What a fucking hell of a run! No fucking way! No way! This is insane! Bro!
As of the recording of this video, 3809 is the current world record, and while it might not be a 37, it is still a testament to just how far both Ravage as a runner and Crash 3 Any% as a category have come. After this PB, Ravage decided to take a short break from the category, but he's since returned to Crash 3 Any%, and I have no doubt in my mind that a 37-minute run will happen soon. And who knows, maybe there's even more time saved to find. Every time it seems like the well is run dry, something else pops up. Speedrunning is a big world, full of things to discover, and you never know what you'll find, whether by poking around with an idea, or just by complete accident. If there's anything about speedrunning that's an absolute truth, it's that someone, somehow, will find a way. Thanks for watching.